I'm Dele. I'm from IBM Interactive Experience. A little bit about myself. So my background, I'm relatively new to IBM. I'm coming up on my first year there this month, actually. Prior to that, I headed up digital marketing for Diageo globally, and then after that, digital marketing and e-commerce for BAT. So I come very much from the client side of the industry, and I understand a lot of the pains involved in engaging consumers directly in that context. And in many ways, I've spent most of my career trying to codify digital. How do you do digital engagement in an effective way? And in many ways, that's what attracted me to IBM. And I think when I say IBM, I mean, so if I say IBM, how many people does that bring the image of hardware or mainframe computers to? Yeah, it's kind of, and guys in suits and ties and armies of consultants, right? So, I mean, yeah. It's one of the things that I always look for, that I'm always fascinated by, is the idea of neoclassics. And it is, in a sense, very attractive to be in a tech company, which was something I hadn't been before, but also a tech company that's 105 years old. It's almost like an oxymoron, right? So, but I think that IBM has demonstrated an ability to reinvent itself perpetually. And what attracted me was about an opportunity to really figure out an environment to have where I could really figure out the code for digital. So I'm going to share that with you. But before I do that, let's deal with the IBM thing.
Wait for me, girl, wait for me. Wait for me, girl, wait for me. Wait for me, world, wait for me. Wait for me, world, wait for me. Wait for me. Better keep up till the sun goes down. Come on. Wait for me, butterfly, wait for me. I'm only trying to set you free. Wait for me, problems, wait for me. I'm only human, so let me be. Let me be.
Not the IBM of your dad or your granddad, for that matter. So, digital is changing the world around us dramatically. You know, it's arguably the biggest driver of economic growth on the planet today. And when you look at this, you can see that we're really still at the very nascent stages of this growth. If you look at the mega trends that are predicted over the next decade, you can see that this transition and change that digital is at the heart of as it becomes more of a cultural movement is only going to gain momentum. The fourth industrial revolution is already in swing, which is transforming industry as we know it. And you look at the sharing economy and the 3D web through things like augmented reality and virtual reality. And you can see that the world that's coming, we're only just being able to begin to imagine what that could mean. Now, as a foundation of all of this, you've heard this from everyone for the last few years. Cloud, analytics, mobile, and social, these are foundational technologies as we move into this new age. But these, in many ways, are simply but a foundation for what's coming in terms of the Internet of Things, which promises to make the most mundane things in our houses, like our thermostats and refrigerators and speakers, into connected and smart things. And we only need to look at the difference between dumb phones of the 20th century and smartphones of the 21st century to understand how dramatic and compelling this change can be. Remember that image, I'll come back to it. The numbers are staggering. From the IoT, there are estimations of in the region of 50 trillion devices, going from 9 billion to 50 trillion devices being connected. 50 billion devices connected by 2020, or between 50 billion and a trillion, actually, are the projections. And with over 4 trillion in revenue being generated from the IoT alone. So big stakes, big numbers, big play. And we can see that the content framework that we're going to be exposed to is going to really morph. And again, as you look at VR, AR, IoT, we can see that the cyber and the digital worlds and the physical worlds are going to converge with the real world in a much more compelling and real way. But it's not simply going to be audiovisual either. We can see that all the sensors are going to start to come into play. So touch is already relatively well trodden, and we've seen Apple's stampede into that space, but soon we'll be able to determine fabrics and textures through electronic stimuli and impulses. This is from Oscar Mayer, a company that has created a dongle that you can attach to your phone, and it gives you the smell of bacon when your alarm goes off in the morning, just to help you get out of bed a bit more effectively. And even the sacred space of taste. This is a digital lollipop from the University of Singapore, where they have developed a means of using electric stimuli to stimulate different taste activators on the tongue, creating an ability to digitally replicate taste. So we see a rich, immersive, multi-sensory canvas is emerging, which will enable us to engage with people in a much more complete, holistic manner than has ever been previously imaginable. And needless to say, with that, there's going to come oceans and oceans of data. Too much data, as said before, to process normally. And that's one thing to be aware of, but the other thing to be aware of is this. Information overload is a reality. People are already complaining or demanding more simple interfaces. So I joked about the dumb phones of the 20th century. This is a 21st century phone. This is from a company called Punkt, who deliver phones that simply enable you to make phone calls. Remove all the cognitive overload of smartphones from your life. And this is an interesting wearable from a company called Vinaya. And it's a wearable that sends you electronic stimuli for when you receive important messages, only from people that you have nominated as important. So again, takes all of the cognitive load away from your engagement. So, cognitive is the big buzzword of the day. And of course, we're stampeding that because it's clear that we're going to need some cognitive assistance to remove the cognitive load on ourselves and put them into machines so that we don't end up in this sense of being snowborn by this avalanche of data that's coming, and that we can transform that avalanche of data into something that's actually a bit more meaningful in terms of a actionable insight. So how do we take this haystack of data and identify the meaningful needles of insight that we can use to move the needle? And cognitive clearly is a key towards helping that. But cognition in and of itself, even with lashings of personal data, trillions of gigabytes, in itself cannot take something as mundane as a cup of coffee and turn that into a powerful, compelling experience. To do that, technology will need a framework that is inherently empathetic and humanistic to be able to deliver meaningful value to people. So the irony is that as technology advances, technology is going to have to become increasingly human and deal with us in a more human way in order to be effective. What's really needed is for the smarts of the system to be relegated to the background, with chatbots and artificial intelligence and smart robots, all which are already in production, so that we can focus on the more important task of enjoying life, which is really what we're all here for. Experiences going forward will be judged on their human empathy and their ability to deliver human value. And this is going to become more and more demanding, as we all know, as we see today. Does anyone recognize this? So this is Ray and Charles Eames. Charles Eames is regarded as one of the most influential designers of the 20th century. He was responsible for proposing the idea that design isn't simply about the aesthetic. It's not about how things look and their colors. It's about how they function, how they work, how they impact people, how they impact society, and how they impact ecosystems. He did a lot of work with IBM, helping us formulate our go-to-market frameworks back in the 50s. And that principle of understanding how things function and how they work and having that human connection is at the heart of IBM's cognitive experience design framework. What we're aimed to do is to use the filter of human needs and the context of those needs to decide which ideas make sense, to decide which ideas actually make it through, because that ultimately is the primary currency of experience. So cognitive brings the smarts, the intelligence of the system, but our design thinking enables us to have an empathetic human framework within which we can design experiences that are compelling and that add value to our lives as consumers or customers. So together, they form cognitive experience design, which is a codified framework that we've developed. It includes strategy, modeling, innovation, and then scaling. Scaling being how you employ fantastic platforms like the Magnolia platform, which we're all seeing great sort of extensibility towards, and other platforms and other services to achieve this at scale. But modeling is the key piece that I want to touch on, because cognitive experience design modeling is what enables us to have a brand and business human-centric focus on designing a strategic operating environment to which we can then plug in cognitive services and deliver compelling experiences. It's fundamentally about 9 nexus points. And I love the previous presentation because the key thing about the experience model is that this is the universe of the brand according to the customer, according to the consumer. The consumer doesn't care whether your function comes from marketing or sales. They have one experience of your brand. You know, I had a really interesting experience when I had a briefcase stolen or broken into at the airport on a British Airways flight. And I went mad with BA that, you know, how could they let this happen? And as I was going back through the airport on another travel, I heard these attendants talking about how the airport service team had let them down on the baggage handling. And at that point was the first time I realized that actually it's not even BA that's involved with my luggage in the first place. But I blame BA, of course, because that's the experience, it's a BA experience that I'm encountering. So the key thing about the experience model is that it is centered around the consumer's experience of your brand with this promise of brand as a service and brand as an experience. It's basically structured over 3 layers, 3 tiers as we call them: structural, emotional, and a transactional tier. And then we apply a cognitive layer to that to automate services. Now, this is a very important point. Cognitive experience modeling is technology and platform agnostic. So I'm not here to sell you IBM servers or IBM hardware or IBM software for that matter even. But the beautiful thing about experience modeling is that we can develop strategic frameworks that enable you to make markets and deliver value to your customers in a compelling way and give them technical depth through cognitive APIs that can plug into any platforms or any systems that you have. And needless to say, if you then apply cognitive APIs to your experience platforms, then there's a very seamless fit, and you start to be able to do really magical things. The final piece in this experience puzzle is this experience matrix, which we developed as our 21st rendition of the classic consumer funnel, and it enables you to plot customer journeys from awareness in your classical way, but all the way through the digital places of fanship and broadcasting and sharing. So what that then enables is that you can then take, this is our personality insight cognitive service, which you've probably heard something about, which enables Watson to be able to identify with a 98% accuracy what your personality type is based on the big 5 psychological profiles, and create micro segments so you can talk directly to people in a highly personalized and direct manner. But even more importantly, you can then apply a experience model framework to have a super relevant context, which is relevant to the brand strategy, relevant to the business goals. So you can then take the personality of the consumer and the personality of the brand, and through the experience matrix, understand the context of the engagement and deliver the right message in the right time, in the right manner to get the maximum receptiveness. So, it's code. This ability to using cognitive experience design, brands are able to create a tailored set of responses that are unique to them and unique to their circumstances and unique to their customers in the context of their brands. And this becomes a platform through which not only can you achieve efficiency at scale, but also it's very hard to do, it's very hard to imitate. It's very hard for competitors to be able to do the same thing because the context and relevance of their brand is different. And if you're going to be true to your strategic intent, it will lead them in different directions. So we think this is a really sort of disruptive measure because it enables us to bring the art and science of consumer engagement in this digital era, which extends beyond digital to the physical world, in a really compelling and brand holistic way. And this in itself then creates a powerful foundation through which you can then do rapid innovation, because a lot of the answers and frameworks and plugging and plumbing, as they say, is set in place. And then you can really focus on engaging content, engaging creative, and the real sort of consumer experience that obviously is going to be the key differentiator going forward. So I know that all sounds a bit hardbrow and complex, so let's take a look at how we have done this today.
How do you hold a conversation in a world of non-stop chatter? How do you find your audience and capture their attention as they plug in and opt out? At IBM Interactive Experience, we steer you through the paralyzing paradox of too much choice. By tapping into our global resources and unleashing the power of ingenuity, we invent new ways to access your money so you remain balanced and open. We capture the glint in a child's eye when we create a teaching hospital without walls. We break through the physical barriers to design the anticipation and deliver the thrill so that the driven realize their dreams. Because meaningful moments come from converting analytics into emotion, using mobility as a catalyst for change, turning big data into big insights that provoke transformative ideas, that inspire employees to delight customers. We co-create memorable experiences so you break through the noise. IBM Interactive Experience drives results that get you to the future first.
It's great that previous guys told us about tennis, and Wimbledon's coming up, so obviously I have to talk a little bit about Wimbledon. We've been sponsoring it for 27 years. But there's an interesting story about Wimbledon, and some of it's obvious about personalization, delivering personalized content. Wimbledon are trying to achieve a couple of things. One, they want to reach a new audience of young people they're competing against every sports property out there at the moment. So how do they get a younger demographic? Two, how do they extend the experience beyond Wimbledon SW19 to the rest of the world? And so in terms of engagement, they've created a mobile device. One of the interesting things that we've done here with them is there's this concept in Wimbledon of the hill, which is this hill overlooking the grounds, and lots of spectators gather there. So we've done a lot of social engagement around people actually at the event versus the round of the world, and there's this hill versus the world score, which comes in through social feeds in terms of people's rating of things that's actually happening. So you can start to see these centers of gravity move as you're closer to the event and further away. Massive amounts of data. I can't remember all the stats of it, but the ones that really impressed me, 100,000 uploads to the site a day, and the ability to deliver uploads and updates to mobile devices and apps every 2.5 seconds. So let's just think about that for a second. So that means that Wimbledon is able to get content about the event to the world, you can be in Australia, faster than the media. So it therefore becomes the go-to place for tennis fans who want to experience Wimbledon. There's extensions to people at home and personalized experience, all the omni-channel stuff that you would expect. But I think the significant thing here is that kind of experience for a brand starts to put a brand in the driving seat of its media platform. And that becomes really powerful, that even the world's media can't compete with when you use digital as a powerful channel in that regards. And there's scores and there's data, and we have 50 ex-tennis players who are updated with data by the millisecond from Watson, who use that in journalism to feed the media, and there's deep engagement. And this is the hill sort of thing. The other thing that's really interesting, we spoke about social a little earlier. There's a social command center, but the difference between this social command center and the ones that you've all heard about is that it's powered by Watson. So we're able to deliver the right content to the right segment at the right time, depending on that segment personality type, which we can derive from their social feeds. And we have a direct relationship with Twitter, for example. So we can do micro-segmentation and deliver super powerful, relevant content through social channels on a live basis, with Watson sort of pulling all of those cognitive components together. Another use case that you might have heard of recently, Noor. So Noor were embarking on, again, how do you engage millennials, a younger demographic and a younger audience, in an interesting way. And one of the things that they wanted to toy with is, could we develop flavor profiles? Could we use taste and flavor interest to match people together? So they created this flavor profile game, and the idea that you could go on a date with a person based on your common taste interests, and hugely successful. The site is live, you can try it out. It uses Watson's personality profile again to tell you your profile. So it uses that as the base and then overlays it with some flavor taste statistics. And it has just knocked the socks out of the park in terms of the performance metrics for it, winning an ad campaign award for the day as well. This is another exercise that we're doing with a company called Wayflow, and their challenge is around travel. And again, we're all travelers here, right? So we all know the nightmare involved in traveling. What Wayflow are aiming to do is, Wayblazer are doing is using cognitive services to understand the context of which you're traveling and use chatbots to kind of build a deeper engagement around you. And then they build up different profiles of you based on what you're trying to do. So if you are going on a business trip, they can make particular suggestions to you. If you're going on an anniversary, it's completely different. Or if you're going on holiday with your kids, part of which they can deduce from this chat-based engagement. So I think it was, again, the guys in the last presentation started to talk about how we have to kind of break this platform model. It's all about content and data, and how do we match these two things together to deliver experiences regardless of what channel you're in, regardless of where you are. And I think that's a really interesting context and breakthrough. This is one of my favorites. So this is an innovation we're developing with this company with a product called Cognitoys. And they're effectively looking at health and education are two of the big things that we're tackling in IBM at the moment. And the idea of personalized education. How do you develop a personalized relationship between an educator, an educating toy or facility, and a child? And the video tells it a lot better than me.
Hi, my name is Lily.
Hi, Lily. Nice to meet you.
How far is the moon?
The moon is about 250,000 miles
That's
from
a
Earth's
lot.
average. What is 2 plus 2?
4.
Awesome job, Grayson.
What is the speed of light?
The speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. Can you count to 6?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Super.
Tell me a knock-knock joke.
Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Lettuce.
Letters who?
Lettuce. It is freezing outside.
My favorite color is orange.
Okay, I'll try to remember. Your favorite color is orange.
See you later, alligator.
In a wild crocodile.
Tell me a story.
How about we make a story together?
What do they call them? Generation Alphas? So yeah, those are Gen Alphas, and those are the ones who cognitive is going to have they're going to experience this world in a way that millennials that we talk about today, or Gen Zers who are web-born native. So look at the demands that they're going to come with. Look at the world that they're going to be coming through. What's really powerful about that is that when we start to think about cognitive services and personalization and being able to deliver that digitally, we start to be able to encounter the possibility of impacting people in a positive way at massive scale. At massive scale. Think about education. Our education model is essentially still Victorian, and the degree of psychological knowledge that we have today, technological power that we have today, the possibilities really become inspiring. And on that note, I'll just end with this quote from Thomas J. Watson, whom Watson is named after. And he said that design must reflect the practical and aesthetic in business, but above all, good design must primarily serve people, which is really what's at the heart of this movement. I'm here for the rest of the evening. Happy to take any questions now or talk to anyone later on, but thank you very much for your time and attention.